Welcome back, everyone. Now we are going to take a look at how the workload dispatching mechanism works, or how the kernel is actually dispatched to the GPU cores. So there are two major components that are involved here from the GPU side, and that is the command processor and then the asynchronous compute engine or the dispatcher. The command processor is basically an embedded microprocessor that is part of the GPU. So it's sort of like a mini CPU within the GPU and is responsible for handling the request from the driver. So these requests can be of multiple types. It can be, in this case, the kernel launching. Then even memory copy operations are handled by the command processor. Then events such as cache flushing is also handled by the command processor. So it basically orchestrates all these requests from drivers and then sends them to the necessary components. So it has a sort of a control port to the different components, such as caches, TLBs, to send control signals to. The second and the important part for dispatching is the asynchronous compute engine. So this ACE is actually responsible for splitting a kernel into work groups, wavefronts, and work items. So the ACE is responsible for dispatching the wavefronts to CUs based on whether the CU can accept that wavefront for execution or not. And the rate is it can dispatch one wavefront per cycle. So it's very important to model the asynchronous compute engine, because otherwise will not be able to study the performance bottlenecks that usually accompany from dispatching. So to do that, let us take a look at an example. So the following is a trace that is obtained using our visualization tool in MGPU Sim. So as you can see, we have an execution of a Bytonic sort benchmark here. The wavefront execution is short, and in the beginning, we have two different wavefronts that are executing. So this is the first one, and this is the second one, and they're sort of running in parallel in the beginning. However, after some time, the first wavefront completes, and then what happens is that the CU is idle in many stages. So originally, when we have two wavefronts that are executing concurrently, we can actually hide a good deal of memory latency. However, when only one wavefront is executing and then that is also doing memory operations, then the compute unit is idle, which is basically a waste of resources, because if the ACE was fast enough to dispatch wavefronts to that compute unit, it would be executing those compute units instead of waiting on memory instructions or memory operations from only one wavefront. Similarly, we can see that in many times it is imperative that, as we notice here, the wavefront is executing memory instructions. However, there's no ALU instructions that are concurrently executed with this. So this has a very negative implication in terms of performance. As a result, what can happen is that we're basically wasting a lot of compute unit resources. If the ACE was fast enough to dispatch multiple wavefronts to this compute unit, then those wavefronts could be running in parallel. And then as a result, we can maximize the available throughput on the GPU. So therefore, it's very important to actually model this ACE, since it has implications on the performance of an application. In the next section, we're going to take a look at how the compute unit is modeled in MGPU Sim.